Welcome everybody to the rosé tasting, international rosé tasting this evening. Three fantastic wines to get through, so really excited to do it. We'll start as always with a quick introduction to the UC team. Of course, we have Alistair Cooper. For those who don't know him, he's our Master of Wine and European Wine Consultant. Alistair writes for Jancis Robinson and the BBC, amongst others. And this week, we've actually got a new addition, which we're very excited to introduce him to. Michael Russell is our wines and spirits buyer, along with Mark.
Mark's right-hand man.
Exactly. Michael's got a WESET level 3. He's been in the industry for a long period of time, so has a wealth of knowledge and actually a really great wealth of knowledge, particularly on Australian wines. So he'll be introducing the Tom Barry Rosé for us this evening. So really interested to get your thoughts and opinions on that one there, Rusty. And of course, myself, one of the senior wine brokers here. And then our special guest is Alberto Gracci. So Alberto will be taking us through the Gracci wine this evening. So really looking forward to having him on board. He'll be on board in about 30 minutes time. So we'll give him a big welcome when he comes in. So for those who haven't been to one of our tastings before, we always, between each wine, run a Wheel of Wine quiz. So it's probably getting a bit boring for some of the regulars, but I'll go over it one more time just so everyone's involved. We want you to text in with your name, email, and answer to the quiz question that we'll put up. A correct answer gets you 3 entries into the Wheel of Wine. An incorrect answer gets you 1 entry, so it's all to play for. And we'll be drawing it at the end of the night for your chance to win a $50 wine credit. So good luck with that. Now, I always say, just to cover off, we want these tastings to be as interactive and fun and engaging as possible. So we've got a chat box. Feel free to give us your tasting notes, your comments, your questions through that. If you feel like unmuting and asking one of the experts a question, we'd love you to do that as well. Just unmute yourself, or I can do it for you, and we can get that question posed to the experts. But that's enough from me. I'm sure everybody's really keen to get into the first wine. Now, whilst you're pouring that one, I'm going to hand over to Ali, and Ali's going to take us through basically how we make rosés. So over to you, Ali.
Great. As I say, good morning, everyone from the UK. It's -6 degrees here. As I look out the window, it's frosty, the cars are frosted over. And often people talk about rosé's ability to transport you to somewhere warm into the beach. So let's see how that theory pans out for me today, as it's pretty much almost snowing outside. But quickly, we've got here 2 methods of making rosé. I'm going to actually add a third to that when we get to it. But first of all, rosé wine isn't made by putting red and white wine together. There is an exception to that in champagne and making traditional sparkling wines. They can often add a little bit of fermented Pinot Noir to the base white wine to get that pink color. But generally, in the still wine world, that's not how it's made. So the first, and probably dare I say it, the least highest quality method is the saignée method. It's essentially grapes are picked, they're macerated, as you see, and then they do saignée in French means to bleed. So they take off a portion of the sort of very lightly pink juice already from the maceration, and that is your pink wine. And then they will go on to make a red wine from the remaining juice in the tank, which essentially, as it says here, point 4, is more concentrated because some of that juice has been removed to make pink wine. And that essentially is, as I said, probably the least qualitative method, because they're making a red wine and the rosé is a byproduct of that. Then we go to the direct press method. So the grapes are picked, they're very gently pressed, and then you get a little bit of color released from the red grapes, and there can be white grapes in there as well, to create a very pale juice, and then it's fermented. So it comes straight off the skins. And the third method is called maceration, which is probably the most common actually, and it's almost a cross between the two. So grapes are crushed and left in contact with their skins for between 2 to 20 hours, and that's the most common method actually in Provence that the first wine we're going to taste. And then it's taken off all of its skins and hard matter and fermented. So the winemaker decides when he has enough color. So there's 3 basic methods of making rosé. So I hope that helps there. The first wine, let's get cracking with the first wine. We're going to go to probably the home of rosé in Provence. And actually, yeah, we can stay on that first map, Luke, if that's all right, just to have a quick look at that. If that's okay. So Provence, in fact, is the oldest wine region in France, and I'm not sure I knew that before reading about it yesterday. So Marseille was founded by the Phocaeans, not the Phoenicians, the Phocaeans, about 2,500 years ago, and wine was introduced, and they made pink wines down there then. The Romans came over and had heard of these pink wines, and the tradition continued. 90% of the production in this area, so we're going from, in the east, we're going from Nice all the way over to, for Côte de Provence, down to kind of Marseille, past Saint-Tropez in the middle there, down to, to Toulon. You can see that sort of red area there is Côte de Provence, and the largest area, which is what we're looking at today. There are other areas of importance, Bondol, Cassis, but we're looking today at the heartland, which is Côte de Provence. So 90% of production here is pink. So pink really rules. Unsurprisingly, a Mediterranean climate. You can see from, or you could see from that on the map. It has hot summers and relatively cool winters and not such great rainfall. For that, the grape varieties are going to have to be grape varieties that do well in the heat, such as Grenache, Mourvèdre, Cinsault, just to name some of them. There's a white grape in there, but I've seen the question coming up, so I'm not going to mention that. Of huge importance down here has been the kind of renaissance of rosé, driven by the celebrity culture, of which I'm sure many of you have heard of or tasted some of the wines coming from Provence. Kylie's now making one down in the Languedoc. We've got Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie are making wines down there. And I think a lot of it is to do with that beautiful color that has become synonymous with Provençal rosé, that pink, very light shade of of salmon. And actually that has nothing to do with quality. So just the lighter wine doesn't mean quality. It just means, as we know from what I've just said, just has a limited amount of contact with the skin. So Domaine Mirabeau, and there's a great story behind this. And I actually met the owner, Stephen and Jenny Cronk. They're a couple, an English couple that started this label in 2009. And I remember talking to Stephen at a tasting in 2009 when he told me he was moving over to France with his family and his 4 kids to make a rosé. And rosé wasn't hugely fashionable then. It was just coming into fashion. And he had an interesting model. A lot of people go over to France to make a wine. They buy a vineyard, seduced by the glamour of it all. But Stephen had a different model. He wanted to go by a négociant model. So he did buy a vineyard, but he's still not producing any fruit from that vineyard. He decided to go out and source his wines from elsewhere. So he is actually, we can see here where his land is, and he's got 12 hectares and he's just about to start creating wine from there. But he sources from around 2,000 hectares of land that he has got long-term contracts with his growers. So he's now selling. It's an interesting, very interesting model, very scalable model and very sensible model. So his idea is to create a consistent product year in, year out, which is fairly easy down there with the warmth of the area. And he started off with the classic Mirabeau. And I don't know if you guys have seen it, but there's now, I think, 6 different levels. He's got one called Pure. I think we sell these as well. I think there's a Pure, there's an Étoile. He's got a sparkling one. He does one in Cannes. He even makes a pink rosé gin now. And it's an incredible success story. And I think that they're making really classic style Côte de Provence, which we're going to get to tasting now. I've stopped talking, but this is the 2019, and I think this is a really good classic example of Provençal rosé. I'm lucky enough to go there every year. My parents have a house just outside Saint-Tropez. So I've been drinking rosé from there for years, and these wines go so beautifully with the local cuisine. That colour, it's almost transporting me, despite the -6 degrees outside, to the beaches of the south of France, to the French Riviera. So this, I love this nose. This isn't an expensive rosé, but it's got just what you want. It's more on that red fruit spectrum for me, slightly spicy, a little bit of creaminess in there. But yes, definitely on that red fruit spectrum. Some of the more premium rosés from Provence go into this more maybe melon kind of character that I find, and a little bit of minerality, but this really balances texture and weight with freshness and those red fruits. I'm going to get your thoughts from everyone now, if we can go to gallery view and see what you guys think. But the great thing about this, they always say in the world of wine, what grows together goes together. And actually the wines of Provence, when you're down there, they do work with the local food. This with a local bouillabaisse or fish soup or tuna niçoise, some freshly grilled tuna, is just an incredible mixture. And it does transport you to the beaches of the south of France. So I'd love to get your thoughts. 2019 was a good vintage. It was a warm vintage down there. I was down there on the beach. I remember, yes, it was a very warm vintage. They don't really tend to suffer from cooler vintages down there. It is pretty warm. So I'd like to hear your thoughts or questions on this wine or Provence Rosé or this style of wine. Anyone got any thoughts?
I don't know if Michael just unmuted then, or
I think he did.
Looks like he's eating some shrimp
like
from the barbecue, which I'm very jealous of.
Prawns there, have you, Michael?
Good man.
He's done it better than us, Luke.
You're on mute, but it looks exceptionally good. Well, if I could show you the view out my window now, Michael, it's not quite as glamorous. As I say, it's frosty and almost too cold to snow. But I'm really impressed with this, even at 7:30 in the morning. I think this is a really good vintage of this. 13% alcohol, and as I say, carries that balance between freshness.
I can totally understand where you're coming from with the arcing back to your time in Provence and Saint-Tropez, Alistair, because I actually had a housemate whose parents had a pad in Saint-Tropez, and we would spend a couple of summers there drinking Provence rosés.
Yeah.
Well, that would precurse the gin and tonics from about 12 o'clock onwards, but
Oh, you're late starters, are you? That's very late. You gotta have them when you get up over there.
I've just seen that Michael's unmuted. Michael, go ahead.
I have. No, I was going to say it's a lovely drop. It's very drinkable, and it's going down very well with the seafood. I've had this one before, and I've had more expensive ones actually, and I come back to this as being a lovely drop of rosé. So thank you.
Yeah, I think you're right there, Michael. And I really think what they're doing, as I say, their model of producing is great. They've got scalability. They're working with loads of growers, and they're very keen on creating a similar kind of taste profile every year. So they often blend across vintages as well to do that. And I'm really impressed with what they've done. They export to 50 markets over the world now. And to think it was only 11 years ago I met Stephen, and he said, I'm moving over to France. Am I mad? And he's not mad. He's done an exceptionally good job, and they've really become a leading player in the market. And every time I taste their wines, to say, I agree with you, Mike, it's just really good value. You can spend another $20-30, but I don't know if you always need to. It's a fun wine, and it ticks all the boxes.
Exactly. No, thank you.
Anyone else got any thoughts? Anyone?
Alexis has said, very nice, similar to another wine that we bring in called Le Vasson. I don't know if you introduced that one to us, Alistair, from the Languedoc rather than Provence, but a similar style.
Yeah, Le Vasson. So, and that is from the Languedoc. So just from a little bit further west of the Provence area that we looked at on the map, and there. the wines can be that's slightly better value, I think, and it is a similar style, that pale rosé. The wines from the Languedoc the rosés from the Languedoc have really come into their own as well. Kylie is now making a Languedoc rosé. I don't know if that's launched in Australia yet. I'm sure it has. And John Bon Jovi as well has got one. I'm going to do a bit of name dropping here. When I was truffle hunting with John Bon Jovi down in the Languedoc a couple of years ago, at the launch of his wines, we were chatting. We weren't chatting, but I did go down to the launch of John Bon Jovi's, diving into Hampton Waters Rosé down in the Languedoc, and actually the success of rosé in the Hamptons in America, it's become the celebrity drink of choice. And it wasn't that long ago that rosé was a little bit of a joke, but now men drink it. It's called brosé, and it's all the rage. So it's sort of this metrosexual wine that's done very well. But yeah, Levesson, getting back to your question, I have tried Levesson, I think, and they are similar. They are very similar wines, but I think this is just a step up. I agree with you, Alexis.
Excellent.
Any other questions, thoughts? Peter, I can see Peter's there. How are you, Peter?
Hi, Alistair. Hi, everyone. Very entertaining again tonight. There was a breakout room discussion, Alistair, we had about you doing a TV show like The Wine Show, but just sticking to celebrities. And, we've had Sam Neill. You're dropping all these names. It would be an absolute hit. Kylie, Bon Jovi, come on.
I'll get on my bat phone and see what I can do. I'm not sure my bat phone's still got Kylie or John Bon Jovi on the list, but I can see what I can do. And I know, not being able to travel has been frustrating to not be able to do that. But yeah, what do you think on this, Peter?
Look, this was a pleasant surprise. I haven't been a huge fan of rosé in the past. Michelle loves it.
Yeah.
But to me, it's one of those wines where when you're down in the waterfront, looking at the Mediterranean, eating your seafood, middle of the day, this comes chilled.
Yeah.
There's just, it's the whole experience, and it tastes fantastic. And then when you transport it to anywhere, Sydney or anywhere, it's just not quite the same. It doesn't taste the same. But this one is a pleasant surprise. I like the balance in this one. It's got great balance. So I would definitely get some more of this. It's great.
I totally agree with you, and it really does. Yeah, it does go so well with that. And there, it is the famous thing, as you say. You go over to Portugal, you come back with that bottle of Vinho Verde or something, and it tasted beautiful looking out over the thing, and it's just not the same. But this is doing a good job, and consistently they do make really good wines. I think this is actually one of the better vintages of recent years of this entry level one that they've done. But yeah, there is nothing better than this on a warm day in the beach. And one day I'm sure we'll get back to doing that. And I look forward to being with you all on the beach somewhere very soon.
We'll take you down to Bondi Alley and get in the surf and have a rosé after. Don't I
need a schooner of beer or something after that?
Well, that's maybe more relevant. I'm not sure. Awesome. Well, let's move on to quiz question number 1, so we can have a look at Australia's answer to rosé. So, quiz question number 1: there are 15 main varietals used in Provence to make rosé. Which of the below is not used? So, Ali had to stop himself mentioning it. We've got answer 1, Cabernet Franc. 2, Tannat, or 3, Vermentino. So just remember, pick up your phone, text into the number on the screen, name, email, and answer. Just use the number, so 1, 2, or 3. So we'll give it about a minute to get your answers in. Unfortunately, Jane's not with us today, so both Mikey and I are going to be doing some scrambling to get the list together at the end, but it's all good. So please feel free to get your texts in.
That's a
Ali,
question.
yeah. Well, again, this is a Mark Faber question. So
I could have guessed that.
He loves the stitch ups. I get them every day.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. Sorry, Luke, were you going to ask me something before?
I was just going to say, any other comments on where potentially, I know we kind of jump into these regions and jump out pretty quickly. where
Yeah.
you might see Provence and Provençal rosé moving forward? Do you think it's going to change stylistically, or just get bigger and bigger and more widespread?
I think it's already widespread. It's already in huge demand. Quality's gone up. I didn't talk too much about that, but for many years it was rustic. But another guy I met was a guy called Sacha Lichine back in 2007, who Whispering Angel is probably another wine that I'm sure you've heard of over there. And Sacha Lichine from Bordeaux, quite the character. He turned around to me. I went to the winery, and he said, our aim is to make the best rosé in the world. And they've kind of done it. I think there's been a huge drive on quality. I think it will continue to be extremely popular. I can't see it waning. They're running out of wine, actually. So I think a focus on quality is what's happened, and that's what we're getting now. And I think the thing we do need to be worried about is some of these Languedoc wines. We talked about Levason, and I think Levason's great quality. Some of them are sort of masquerading with these very pale colours. And often they're not particularly great wines. Just because it's pale does not mean it's going to be good. Looking for Provence is increasingly a sign of quality, and Languedoc increasingly as well. But you do have to be a little bit careful. Just if you're buying on colour, doesn't always mean quality.
And then very briefly, for those who might want, you mentioned Whispering Angel, but in terms of sub-regions within Provence, I've heard of Bandol being one. Are there any others to look out for?
The greatest region for me making rosé is Bandol in the south of in Provence. There's some fantastic wines there. One called Terre Brune, if you can find that. There's a company called Tempier down there who make just the most stunning Mourvedre. That's the heart of Mourvedre. Everything there is made from Mourvedre, or Mataro, as it's called in Australia. And then you have these little sub-regions. You've got Fréjus, which is on the coast. You have Pierrefeu. Certain areas can use their own name, but Cassis and Bandol probably is the most serious one. But they're heavier wines. They're normally a slightly darker colour than these, just very slightly, but they're more structured. They're more serious than these. This is unashamedly a drinking wine. This is one that you guys have got it laid out with the prawns fresh from the barbie, overlooking the sea. That's what this has done.
Amazing, brilliant. Well, let's have a look at what the Clare Valley can do with rosé. So I'm going to hand over to you, Mikey. You can kick us off.
All right, I get to talk about one of my favorites, the Barrys. Absolutely unreal. We've been dealing with the Barrys since I started working here back in 2017. However, I only found out yesterday we've actually dealt with them since we started back in 2004. So just like any family-owned and run business, like the Barry family, we're a family-owned wine retailer. We thought, help each other out. You scratch my back, we'll scratch yours. Let's make another wine for ourselves. So that's sort of how this came. It's an absolute star favorite, and it's so much of a star favorite that it's one of those wines that we get to decide what the final product is actually like. So each year, the Barry family give us 3 different versions of their rosé that they think they're really excited about, that we'd really like. We get to sit in the tasting room, try them all, and decide on our favorite blend, completely blind. We don't know where these wines come from. We just know that they were from the Clare Valley. So this particular year was really interesting. We used a Grenache base, and I'm not sure how well everyone's memory is, but back in 2019, there was actually a quite big substantial damage to vineyards around Adelaide Hills due to the fires. So our regular Pinot Noir based rosé actually became Grenache this year, which we were quite hesitant on, but I think we've done it absolutely fantastic. So this was actually sourced from the Mackay vineyard, which I'll pass over to Lukey Baldwin to show us where that is on the map, please, mate. So we go down the Clare. So in the sub-region of Watervale, which I'm sure you've probably all heard of, in the Clare Valley, to the Eastern Ridge, they've got, the Barry family have actually purchased from Treasury Wine Estate about 5 years ago, this beautiful vineyard called the Mackay's Vineyard. It sits on this lovely bit of limestone soil there, perfect drainage. It's got a lot of sunlight that goes there, which Grenache really needs to really ripen. It's a very late ripening grape varietal, which if you're growing it in a cool cool region. It sort of needs that little bit of a nudge from the soil, and it's just 500 meters above sea level, and it's really come out beautifully. So we might have a look at the wine, if that's all right. I'm having a look at the color here, and as Ali said earlier, the way that the colors sort of come through in the wine, I think is really interesting. It obviously comes out of the skins of the grape themselves, and this only spent about 2 hours on skins there. So you see a very minimal amount of color actually being extracted from this real like dark Grenache grape varietal, which is quite interesting, I think. It's a little bit similar towards the Pinot in color as well, which is really cool. So when I smell this, beautiful. I get a little bit more sort of like your pink lady apple. I get a little bit of musk sticks. I get a little bit of that confectionery sort of, strawberries and cream lollies without it, smelling too cake-like, if that makes sense. I just think it's really quite refreshing on the nose. It's absolutely gorgeous. So that's that. Then on the palate, have a bit of a sip of that. That's dry as a bone. It's actually less than 3 grams a litre in residual sugar, which is very dry. So pretty much what everyone in Australia wants on a hot summer's day. That beautiful back acid line goes perfectly with your prawns, which unfortunately I don't have at the moment, but we might have to get them for next time.
Michael's got his prawns and the rosé. But Mikey, when they sent you samples for this one, were they all to taste and decide which one you wanted? Were they all Grenache, or were they, or did they have different alternatives in there for you?
They were all Grenache. There was one which actually had a Grenache Mataro blend, which is about 20% Mataro, and we found that one. It was actually probably the runner-up. It was really nice. And again, we went in blind. We didn't know what these wines were. We just tasted them in their glasses and picked our favorite. So, and I think we've picked the best one. It's beautiful. Yeah. Probably a little bit less restrained than your Provence, I think. Yeah. Sort of stings out of the glass just that little bit more, I think. But I think the Provence is has a little bit more complexity. It's a gorgeous wine.
Mikey, I'm keen to ask, obviously being in the buying department, you see a lot of rosés come through, some great, some not so good. And when I'm on the phone to clients and speaking with clients, the number one thing that I hear is about Australian rosé. Well, I don't want something dark and sweet. And being, coming from the UK and probably being exposed to Provence rosé before I was Australian, at what point because this is obviously quite pale and dry and quite delicate, at what point did we start to see a shift and stylistically we saw a more kind of Provence-led style of rosé come from Australia?
Was that for Ali or me?
Well, both of you, please. Just
well, Mikey, I'd like to. You'll know far more, commercially than me when that happened in Australia. I've got a guess in my head, but how have you seen that from a sales point of view and from a customer demanding point of view?
Yeah, sure. So I think that rosé has had a common misconception that it's actually a sweet wine because of the color for a really long while there. But I think we've been making bone dry rosé since I've been in wine, which is 2011. So I haven't really been exposed to too many of the sweet ones. There are a couple of commercial ones that are around there that are made in that sweet style, and they've sort of got their place. However, I think most of the rosé that's sort of a palate pleaser for Australians is really that bone dry sort of Provence imitation that we're really seeing. And we're seeing a lot of similar grape varietals used to what is over in Provence, which is where we sort of started there. But then we also have the likes of Pitaleschi and a couple of others that are actually starting to make some great Italian varietal blends, so Tempranillo base and a couple of others, which are coming out a little bit more savory, a little bit less of that confectionery that we're seeing out of the Barry today. So yeah.
I think another point actually on that is, and I sort of touched on it earlier, is when we're looking at color, that pale color doesn't always mean quality, and it also doesn't always mean sweet. The slightly darker styles certainly aren't sweet. They can often just have a little bit more flavor. So there's some great wines from Navarra in the north of Spain. You've got the beautiful wines of Tavel Rosé from the Rhone Valley as well. And they can be really stunning, complex wines with a little bit more tannin, a little bit more structure, and a little bit more fruit. They're not sweet. So that darker color doesn't always mean sweet, but we've become accustomed, possibly through the white Zinfandel phenomenon. I don't know if that hit Australia, but it certainly did in the UK from California. Sweet, pink, darker colored rosés that people equate with sugar, but darker color doesn't always mean sweeter. But the market now dictates that this is nearly always dry, this color. So that's what people presume that they want, really.
Should we open up the floor and see what people's thoughts are on wine number 2? Ana Rosa, I see you've got it in your hand there. Do you guys want? I know that you were just about to tuck into your dinner beforehand. What are your thoughts on wine number 2?
We thought it was very different from wine number 1. And it takes a little bit of getting used to when you've just had wine number 1, which we really loved. So yes, we agreed with, we agree it's quite, it's appley. And we were wondering if you don't eat prawns, what would you eat it with? So that was an interesting thing we need to figure out.
Mikey, I'll let you go with that one. What do you think?
Oh gosh, I tell you what, we've got another rosé event that you can actually see in the background. Mark Faber frantically walking around in the background there, and they've actually got some really nice savoury meats that they're and crackers that they're pouring with this at the moment. And I want to go get myself some.
Mikey, just to keep you in the loop because you're new to the tasting, Charles and Ana Rosa are vegan. So.
Oh no! I'll just stick to the crackers then. Crackers, beautiful. Captain's table, recommended.
Maybe what we'll go with that.
Particularly.
We'll figure it out. But it's a beautiful, interesting, crisp, fruity, not fruity, appley wine. Yeah, and it is very interesting how different it is from the French wine.
Yeah, they probably look similar in color, but as you say, it's amazing. That color is not always a proxy for how it's going to taste, or for quality either. I was going to suggest some cheese, some goat's cheese to go with it, but then I realized that that's not vegan friendly either.
Vegan goat's cheese, so that so that might be something we'd try. We'd go with that perhaps.
That would potentially work.
I've noticed that Alberto has logged in. Alberto, I can see you. Just before I give you a proper introduction, just to bring you into the conversation, I mean, more broadly with regards to rosé, aside from seafood, what would you traditionally pair it up with in Sicily? Is there any traditional Sicilian food that you'd pair it with?
But we like to pair with the fried fish. Sicily is an island, and so we have a lot of fish. And it's fantastic. It's a very good pairing with also fried vegetables, with raw fish. So there are a lot of opportunity to pair with, to work with the acidity and with the lightness of rosato or rosé. So this is a good pairing.
Fantastic.
So may I speak?
Please.
Okay.
Please.
So thank you to everyone.
Sorry, Alberto. We've just got a quiz question to do first, and then we'll go on to your wine. So let's launch that now, should we? So sorry about that. I'll just launch the quiz question, and then we can get going for you. Give me 1 second. Here we go. So just before we head into wine number 3, which is of course Alberto's Rosato, we have a second quiz question for you guys to text in. So this one is, rosé has become the champagne of millennials. In the USA in 2018, by what percentage did rosé sales grow by? So it's either 20, 30 or 40.
This is another Mark Faber question, isn't it?
It's classic.
It's classic. I hope you're all up to date with your stats from the 5th International Rosé Symposium.
Who wouldn't be?
I read them this morning before I got up for my cup. Good job. It's a multiple choice question, multiple guess.
It's funny. I'm reading. I'm reading Mark's notes as the anecdote. It's interesting.
I'm actually going through the answers now. It's quite interesting. Now I get to peer in and see what Jane gets to look at. It's great.
I've got an idea what the answer might be, but I don't know.
Okay, should we leave it another 20 seconds before we launch into Alberto's wine? Any final comments on that, either Mikey or Alistair? Anything you'd like to say?
No, I don't think so, Mikey. I didn't have that wine with me, seeing as it's a special for you guys in Australia. I was really impressed with the Pinot we used to sell, actually, year before, and I remember tasting that when I was over in Sydney with you guys in 2019. Goodness me, seems an age ago. And I was really impressed with that, and actually a whole range that we have, the United Cellars range. I was thoroughly impressed, and I'm sure this is another great example. Yeah, different in style, and each of these wines have their own place. I think Provençal probably is a little bit more structured. That's probably reflected in the price as well, I should think. But I remember really loving the Pinot, so I can't comment on this one. But always a good house style, and it's great to hear that you guys are helping blend and choose as well.
Awesome. Well, let's move on to Alberto. How are you doing, Alberto? I'll give you a quick introduction to those who aren't too familiar with your wines or yourself as a winemaker. Alberto Grazzi has been making wine in Sicily in the Mount Etna region since 2004. The year he actually returned from an apprenticeship as a Milan banker. So I'm sure there's an interesting story in that, Alberto. But I was reading that you actually, your grandfather was a winemaker, but in another part of Sicily, and you sold his holdings and actually moved to Mount Etna. So welcome to the tasting. And I think probably a great place to start is, what about Mount Etna is so compelling to you?
Yeah, thank you, Luke. Thank you to everyone. Good evening. Etna is a very unique place. As you already said, I came back to my roots in 2004 after I lived in other cities in Rome and Milan. We are in Sicily. Sicily is a unique place because it is the biggest island of the Mediterranean. A very unique position because it is between Africa and Europe, and very unique shape because it has 1,000 miles of coast in 10,000 square miles. And a lot of diversities between mountain, hills, and flat shape of the island. So all these incredible differences make Sicily like a small continent, and also the complexity of the history that we have, with a lot of influences coming from different cultures like Greeks, Roman, Phoenician, Ostrogoth, French, Spanish, Arabic. They gave to Sicily a unique culture and influences in art, music, literature, everything, and also wines. This incredible shape of diversities between mountain and the sea coast gives different vocation of possibility of cultivation of different grapes, passing from a part to the other part of Sicily. And that's why we have several indigenous grapes. They make different kind of wine, from the deep, dense, alcoholic wine from the coast to the elegant, vibrant wine from Mount Etna. Mount Etna is an active volcano. Technically, an active volcano is a volcano that had a minimum one eruption in last 10,000 years, while we have mediumly 15 eruption in 1 year. Not in 10,000 years, in 1 year. So Etna is quite active in every moment. And this is very unique because it means that our soils, they are very, very young. They are young, it means that a part of the soil is like a contemporary, because every eruption gives an explosive eruption of volcanic black ash that goes in the air and then goes on the soil. It means that all this soil, they are really rich of minerals, and these minerals, they are very important for the exchange capacity of the soil and the unique character of the wines. Etna is a place that is historical for viticulture. We make wine since 5,000 years, and is very unique also because of the incredible and unique micro climate. We have a vineyard between 500 and 1,000 meters above sea levels. It means between 2,000 and 3,000 feet. So it means that they are the highest, among the highest vineyard in Europe. Only because we can cultivate and have a very good maturation, even if we have the weather of the mountain, because we have the sun of Africa. So it's a very unique place. I like to say it's a place of paradox, because it's hot and cold at the same time. And we have 2 indigenous grapes, very important indigenous grapes. They are Carricante for white and Nerello Mascalese for red. We have for Carricante is very small quantity, indigenous only for Etna, not for Sicily. And we make Etna Bianco. And while with the Nerello Mascalese, we make Etna Rosato, so it means our rosé, and Etna Rosso. Etna DOC is one of the most historical in Italy. It was established in 1968 with the 3 categories Etna Bianco, Etna Rosso, and Etna Rosato. What I love about Etna is that it's a place where it really makes sense to speak about diversity. You know, everyone in the world, they speak about cru. We call our cru Contrada. And every place, every plot, it really makes a unique wine, because we have 3 great diversities and variability that make every vineyard unique. One is the altitude. I mean that between 500 and 1,000 meters, if you move going high, you change the moment of the maturation. And so every vineyard is different. Then there's position, because Etna is a mountain, so it's like a volcanic cone. And so if you pass from the north to the east to south, you change sun exposition, weather exposition, and also the quantity of rain. And then we have this incredible, unique identity coming from the geology, because every eruption sign like a fingerprint every vineyard. We have vineyard from 50,000 years of origin to few hundreds of years, like 500, 600 years. So this is really incredible and unique. Graci Estate was refounded by me, because as you told, my grandfather had an estate in the center of Sicily. I thought that when I came back to Sicily, I thought that there was a place in Sicily that was really able to make a great classical wine. I came back for red wine to make Nerello Mascalese, but I think that the same concept I had about the idea of a great classical wine, it makes sense also for Etna Rosato and Etna Bianco. For me, a great classical Italian wine is a wine where you have everything in the glass. I mean, you have complexity, you have vibrancy, you have deepness, you have generosity, but you don't have anything too much. I mean, there is a great balance. I remember a word that was said by Matt Kramer of Wine Spectator about elegance, no, of Italian wine, and he used the word restraint. So we say ritegno in Italy, no? I mean, nothing too much. And it's always like to walk, you know, when you are at the circle, you work on the line. So this is and it's possible to make wine like this on Etna, because you have something that is able to compensate this generosity of Mediterranean, of the sun, of the hot summer, with the cold of the weather of the mountain. Etna is a place where we have snowfalls between 900 and 1,000 millimeters a year, and it's a place where we have a very, very strong, very cold winter and night also. So if we talk about Rosato, our Rosato, is also, if you see the color, you see that it's not unusual Rosato, no? It turned to the orange, to the powder, pink powder. So it's a very unique color. When I started to make Rosato in 2013, I started to make this wine because of agricultural reasons. I found that part of the vineyard, they were different to all the other. In 2004, we did the study of pedology, a pedology and zone study of all our vineyard, and we find 5 different kinds of soil. A part of the soil, because our estate is like an amphitheater, and so it means that year by year, decades by decades, century by century, all the sand went down in the bottom of the amphitheater. All the stone they remained on the top. So all this deep and sandy soil, I've seen, because previously I used to make also Etna Rosso from this soil, I've seen that was making a totally different kind of grapes. I mean, a little bigger grape with more acidity, a great salinity expression, but with tannin that for me they were less vocated for a red wine, but an incredible, delicious juice that gave me the idea of making Etna Rosato. From that moment,
I've got a question for you on that, because I think that the rise of Nerello Mascalese has been amazing. You know, it's gone to be this extremely trendy, expensive wine. You know, everyone wants to drink Etna wines, and especially Nerello Mascalese. And I unfortunately haven't got this wine with me. I know your wines. I love your quota, your red wine, the Nerello Mascalese. And I've just ordered some of your new wine that you've made with the famous Angelo Gaia. I've got some in the post now, so we can talk about that in a minute. But your decision to make a rosé with Mascalese, couldn't you make more money making more red from your Nerello Mascalese than a rosé?
No, you know, I decided because I've seen that really this vineyard, for me, they were more vocated for Rosato. They also had more generosity. So I had to do very strong green harvest to do the Etna Rosso. So let's say to be more interventing, no? Where I started in 2013, I made the Rosato. I tasted a lot of Rosato before also choosing the style of the Rosato. And then I decided also, considering this kind of grapes that coming from this vineyard that for me, they are all about juice than about skin. While the grape of the other vineyard where we make Etna Rosso, I think they have a great juice. This is a great skin. This I think this is more about juice. So I decided to make Etna Rosato without any maceration. So and we started. Also, when I started to make Rosato in 13, there was still beginning the Rosato, let's say, explosion. No? So I was I started to make Rosato and also thinking, but what will happen? I don't know if I will be able to sell this wine, no?
Yeah.
But then, of course, it was interesting what I read, about the comparison between rosé and champagne, because champagne is a great wine for me. I was speaking with my wife yesterday. We opened a bottle of champagne. I said the champagne is incredible wine, But also I think that if you move to a different positioning, also economically, and you buy a sparkling wine, sometimes it happens that you lose this vibrant pleasure that you have with the champagne. No? You get a quite good thing, but you can find this vibrant emotion in a great Rosato. So I mean, probably this is why this is Rosato in general, very good Rosato. They are the new champagne, because people, they can drink something approachable that does this pleasure, is something different, but the idea, is this is the idea.
I think it's also, I think you're totally right, Alberto. It's become just, rosé, everyone thinks now celebration. They think of the beach, of sunshine, of sharing. It kind of, the thought of a rosé now makes people smile, which is similar to champagne in the way it evokes emotion. But as well as that, as you say, the great thing is that people, there's winemakers such as yourself, there's a real push towards quality as well, and to making a wine that is not just pink for a reason, but there's quality behind it. So I totally agree. What about thoughts from anyone on the floor? Does anyone have any tasting notes or thoughts on this that you want to share?
Alexis,
this is interesting. This is interesting what you said, because you associated rosé with the state of mind. No, you say that the seed is what is. This is the strong, let's say, the strong communication of champagne is to associate with a state of mind. So this is what you can have also with rosé.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think it's a great thing, and I'm seeing lots of smiles from people as they're drinking this wine, which must be a good thing.
Alexis, let's open up the floor. What are your thoughts on this one?
Sorry, I had to unmute. We thought it was absolutely divine. It's very sophisticated, I think is the word we've come up with here. So it's a different style to the other two that we've drunk tonight. I really like it, but I think the word for me is sophisticated. What about you? Yeah.
Yeah,
it's hard. It's hard for us because you guys are in -1 and 5 degrees, and we're in Noosa, and it's like 26, 27 degrees.
Sounds like the perfect time.
We're transported there.
Just about ready to jump in the swimming pool. Very, very nice wine.
I love Noosa. I had my first ever chocolate coated coffee bean in Noosa. It was wonderful. It changed my life.
It's interesting though, that word sophisticated that you use to have this wine, and that's a word that's used very often with Italians and Italian wines anyway, that level of sophistication. But I think this is the great, you know, Nerello Mascalese that I've touched on before, and actually a question for Alberto, you know, I think it's become an extremely trendy grape variety. You know, 20 years ago, people weren't really talking about Etna in a global sense. And now it you know, this grape variety, Nerello Mascalese, is sometimes called the new, you know, similar to maybe a Pinot Noir. Would you say, Alberto, Pinot Noir or Nebbiolo, kind of maybe between the two of those kind of grape varieties? How would you explain Nerello Mascalese?
But you know, Etna, of course, has a great history, but not of bottling. So most of the wine was sold in bulk in the last 100 years. So that's why probably something more new in the last 20 years, let's say, was more attention to make unique wine. Nerello Mascalese, of course, is different to every other grape, but is part of a category. If you want to simplify this, sometimes also good to communicate. I think there is a category of a certain kind of wine that they have at the same time complexity, but and they could be delicate, but also complex and deep. I put in this category, of course, also wine from Burgundy or from Langhe, so from Barolo, Barbaresco, or also, of course, other wine from other parts of the world. Some Sangiovese also, because depending on the zone of Tuscany, some are strong, but some are very elegant, like some Chianti Classico. So I think that this is also connected with another characteristic that make unique Nerello Mascalese and Etna wine. So they have always intact the Mediterranean personality. So if you taste Etna Rosato, you can smell, I don't know why, it's a mystery, but wine is about mystery. Right. You always smell Mediterranean smell, like mandarin, like citrus. A lot of time I smell the sea iodio and this salinity that remind me the sea water. And also in the Etna Rosso, Nerello Mascalese with maceration, I always, a lot of time I smell the bloody orange, the red orange that is typical of Sicily. So we don't know why, but that's why we love wine, no? So it's something unique. So this Mediterranean expression, it means generosity, it means sun, but at the same time, we have the vibrant electric acidity. Yeah. And we try to be very focused and precise in the winery to maintain this vibrant purity. Yeah. And in which way? For Rosato, we try to complete totally the maceration to have a totally dry wine, because we focus on the generosity from the vineyard, from the maturation, and we don't look for generosity in the winery. So totally dry wine. We try to be very careful in the cultivation and also harvesting time to maintain a very good acidity. And also we work in a very neutral way with concrete and stainless steel, but we try don't to have oxygenation. After that, when we bottle the wine, I like to drink our Etna Rosato when it's young, but also after 5, 6, 7 years. Because it goes to a very interesting oxidation. Oxidation for wine is like oxygen for human being. Oxygen make us, give us the possibility to live, but also it make us older. So great wine, they have the possibility to have a new life with oxygen, no? It's like a multiplicator. So a lot of wine, they die with oxygen, but other wine, we were talking about champagne, a great champagne, after 20 years, it becomes something different, no? And it's the same also from this Rosato.
Yeah, great. Wow, thanks for that, Alberto. Anyway, Peter, what are your thoughts on this one?
What?
Oh, I'm just asking Peter what he thinks.
Okay.
Buongiorno.
Buongiorno.
You were talking about the moderation. My grandmother, my nonna, used to say, "Piano piano vai lontano."
Correct.
Everything in moderation.
Have you mastered that, Peter, or not?
Yeah.
Bravo.
Yes. No, not really. I'm going to go with the last comment about the sophistication. It does taste like a rosé, but there's more depth to it. And I think I would still be looking to try this wine in 3, 4, 5 years' time. And of all the wines we've tasted, I love the first, second, okay. But this third one, I think, is the one that I would enjoy the last glass in the bottle just as much as the first. It's not as sort of punchy maybe as the second, but it has a lot more character. And I did like the word sophistication, but this is a wonderful wine, and it's not what I would have thought of previously as a rosé. Rosés for me have always been that sort of, yes, lunchtime, seaside fish, seafood, hot weather, etc. But in a way that kind of cramps the wine. It limits the wine. This is a wine that I think you could drink at any time, at a dinner. I'd love to give this at a dinner party. This is an absolute wonderful wine and an eye-opener for me.
Are you saying that they've won you over, Peter? They've won you into the world of rosé. Welcome.
That's great to hear, and I think that, you know, hearing what you said, Alberto, as well, that is, it's the goal as well, to make, you know, rosé. It's wonderful to say that these wines go well with seafood, but as you say, Peter, it can limit it. You know, rosé can be a very serious wine. You know, it can be a structured wine, and serious wines do need time to develop in bottle as well. And it sounds like that's what you've done with this one. Alberto, I just wanted to ask you another question. So, as I know I'm aware of time, but you're now making a wine with the great Angelo Gaia from Barbaresco, the man that was responsible for, you know, one of the greatest characters and in the world of wine, and he is now making this wine with you from Nerello Mascalese in Sicily.
Yes, we are making 2 wines, one from Nerello Mascalese and one from Pericante, one white and one red. We bought together one vineyard in the south part of Sicily, of Etna. So in the other part, because we are in the north part, we bought in the south part to do a new adventure. So it's very interesting for me. I was talking about the capacity of Sicily to attract people in the past, no? When I was talking about other culture, and that's what is making Etna great. The Mediterranean capacity of attract brain, because, you know, wine is an expression of intelligence, culture, and humanity. So Angelo Gaia is a great, unique person with huge experience. So it's could be a reactor of brainstorming to do better. Of course, everyone is personality, but that's what we are doing. And also for us, it's interesting to discover a new part of Etna, because, you know, north side is more known, no? The majority of winery, like 80-85%, they are in the north part, while we are discovering a new cru, new vineyard, and it's a little bit different also the weather. So it's very unique. It will be a first step to see Etna like the great zone of the world, doing leverage on the diversity of the contrada of the vineyard. And the state is called Didda, that means she, because the mountain Etna is considered from the local like a women, no? with this energy and this unique personality. That's why we call it this new estate Idda.
Well, I look forward to it. As I say, I ordered some just about 3 or 4 days ago. I ordered 6 bottles, so I look forward to it arriving and trying it, and very exciting times. But thanks.
I can't wait to know your
my opinion. I will let you know.
I hope when this difficult moment will finish, that every one of you will come to visit us in Sicily. It's a little bit far.
Hello.
Next year, we hope next year.
Alistair, can I make a comment here? Alberto, I am amazed that you grow your, we live in Australia. We're in the Blue Mountains behind Sydney, and Australians, many Australians are used to big Shiraz wines. So something that is light, like many of the rosés, sort of passed by a little bit. This one, though, has a uniqueness to it that is, to me, and I'm speaking on behalf of Les, who is our host, Les Margulis, and his wife Anne and Robin, the neighbor. To me, this has some characteristics of a Shiraz in this. If you would call it in the rosé style, it's a big rosé, and I love it for that reason. I'm amazed that the vineyards survived through those photos of the vineyards covered in snow. It's just amazing. I've never seen that before. So congratulations on your wine. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I can't wait to be in Australia because, you know, it is in my heart. I also did my honeymoon in Australia. Yes, fantastic.
Where did you
place.
go in Australia, Alberto?
But we've been in Adelaide, then we've been in Barossa, I've been Kangaroo Island, in Darwin, in the north also Cairns. We also been to the Coral Reef, in the north, a lot of places, beautiful place. Australia is incredible. It's too far from here. It's very far.
We finally have been blessed with our cheese and some crackers to have with our rosé.
Fantastico. Wine
Very happy man.
For me, wine is for food. It's very important because you enjoy with food and with people. No, it's a way to share a moment with other people.
That's what wine's all about.
Well, I think that's a really nice place to leave it. So, Alberto, thank you so much for your comments and taking us through Etna. I think speaking on behalf of everybody, we really enjoyed that. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you for everything, and have a nice night and enjoy. Thank you so much. Hope to see you in Sicily one time. Grazie.
Cheers. Thank you.
Ciao.
Ciao. Ciao.
Okay, so let's spin the wheel of wine, should we, to wrap up the evening? So I hope everybody can see that. Good luck to everybody.
My numbers are right, I promise.
Yeah.
It was my first time.
can see people's names in there quite a bit. So I'm assuming, Rusty, we got quite a few right answers there, which was good. So I'll give it a spin and we'll go from there.
I haven't seen my name. Oh,
it's going crazy today.
Jason.
Where's Jason?
Jason!
Do we have Jason in the gallery view at all?
I see Rebecca Corlett's Zoom.
Rebecca, can you unmute and give us, and Jason, can you give us a quick toast?
We need to unmute you.
It's a mime.
Yes, thank you.
Well,
fantastic.
Well done. Fantastic.
Well done, guys. We'll be in touch to sort that voucher out for you. So moving forward, these are the 3 wines obviously we've tried. We say it every week, if you're interested in revisiting them, we've got a good stock of all 3. And we do have an event price this evening, so they're a little bit less expensive than what they would be usually. So please get in touch. We'll, as always, send a text message tomorrow morning, or feel free to, if you want them straight away, text to that number on the screen with your name, the wine and the quantity. Alternatively, if you have a personal broker here, just get in contact with them and I'm sure they'll sort you out. So thanks for that. And then just finally, moving forward before we sign off, if you've really enjoyed these, we'd love to see you again. We've got on the 18th next week, the Old World versus New World Master of Wine debate. How are you prepping for that one, Ali? How are you feeling for it?
I'm feeling good. I've got the wines ready to go. I'm confident in an Old World victory. So I will be in the corner of the Old World, and Andrea Pritzker, my fellow Master of Wine, will be in the New World corner. It's a bit of fun, you know. I think actually, you know, and we'll talk about it on the night about Old World and New World and what it means, and you know how relevant is it in these days. But we've got some great wines, and it's just a nice opportunity to see the stylistic differences that we have in different grape varieties. So I think we've got some Chardonnay and some Côte de Rhône blends, some GSM blends as they are from Australia. So no, very very much looking forward to that, and another bright start from the UK. Hopefully it won't be
Dust off the boxing gloves.
Yeah, it should be fun.
That one, there's 4 wines in that pack. So if you're still wanting to order that one, get some friends involved. Well, I mean, if you can tuck away 4 wines in a night, you're a better person than I am. But yeah, obviously we love seeing loads of people involved and lots of dinner tables and that sort of thing. So it should be a good one. Something a little bit different on the 25th, we've got Japan's Grace Wines. And then finally, one that's very close to my heart because they herald from the West Country of the UK, Tarquin's Cornish gin tasting we'll be doing on the 4th of March. So if gin's your bag, then that's one certainly not to be missed. But yeah, finally, I should say, sorry, we've also got in-person tastings. And I don't know if anyone eagle-eyed viewers were seeing in the gallery view, we've actually got a live stream of our rosé tour happening in the room in front of me in United Cellars headquarters. So if you feel like coming to any in-person events and you're in Sydney, then we'd love to see you. On the 2nd of March, we've got Tuesday tutorials, alternate varietals. And then on the 6th, we've got Sulphur. And then finally, we've got the Grand Cru Pinot tasting. So please get in touch if you'd be interested in attending any of those. So yeah, that's pretty much it from me. I should say thanks to everybody who came. Thanks to our experts. Mikey, any final comments?
Oh, fantastic. Anyone have a favourite wine of the night, or feel free to pop it in the comments.
Mirabeau was the favourite, but thank you for a great tasting. All 3 were really good.
Glad you liked it, Charles. That's great. I love the cat jumping on the table as well. I had a chuckle. I love cats.
I had to hide. My cat was desperate to be in next to me, so I had to throw him out earlier on, so he wouldn't be jumping up.
Stephen's commented wine number 2. I'm not sure that's because you designed the labels to those ones, Stephen, or
That might be. I think well, for me, a couple of words. Great to see you all again, and you know, for me, just again, it's a great way to start the day. I thought, you know, really interesting tasting, and we've looked at all different sides of rosé, and I'm really pleased to see rosé is now a serious drink, and to hear all the feedback from everyone, and to hear Alberto's thoughts on Etna as well. And I think you know, those are wines. Etna, we talked about. Good investment as well. A lot of these wines coming from Etna, so you know, we're going to see great things from there. And Alberto's fantastic guy. So thank you all for tuning in, and hopefully see some of you next week for the MW boxing match.
Beautiful. Well, yeah, we'll leave it at that. Again, to echo everybody's comments there. Thank you for coming along. We love putting these on, and hopefully we'll see you again soon.